A 22-year-old young woman, carrying a sky full of dreams, was about to step into a brand new chapter of her life. Jasmine Pace, radiant, loving, cherished by her community and the pride of her family. Just days before Thanksgiving, grief had already struck. Her great-grandmother had passed away in the hospital. No one realized that this loss was only the beginning of a tragedy far more terrifying. On the night of November 22nd, 2022, Jasmine walked out of her home. She sent her mother a strange message saying she was going to South Carolina with a friend named Emma to spend the holiday. But something was off. Her mother knew Emma well and knew Jasmine would never introduce her that way. That short message carried an unsettling chill, as if it had been typed by another hand, cold and deceitful. The next morning, Jasmine was gone. No word, no sign. Then on social media, bizarre photos and videos suddenly appeared under her account. Everyone who knew her instantly understood Jasmine would never post those. Someone else was pulling the strings, controlling not only her silence, but now her image. And then came the chilling footage, a shadowy figure in the night, dragging a heavy suitcase across the pavement. But inside that suitcase, there weren't clothes. Inside was a horrifying secret, one that would unravel into an investigation shaking an entire city to its core. To understand the pain and injustice of this tragedy, we must go back to the time before it began. Jasmine Pace was not just another young woman drifting through life. She was a bright light in her community, a treasured part of her family, where love and loyalty were always placed above all else. After her parents divorced, Jasmine remained deeply connected to her mother, Katrina, and her devoted stepfather. They were even building her a new house nearby, a symbol of trust and love. While waiting for it to be finished, Jasmine stayed in the family's pool house, where mornings often began with laughter and warm conversations. At 22 years old, Jasmine was working for her stepfather's construction company. Co-workers and neighbors described her with words that carried weight: genuine, kind, never one to make enemies. Friends often recalled how on bad day, Jasmine would walk in and wrap her arms around someone's shoulders, dissolving the heaviness of the moment. That simple image captures her essence: a young woman filled with light, a light that would soon be extinguished by darkness. It was during this time that Jason Chen entered Jasmine's life. They met through the dating app Bumble. At first they were just friends, but soon their bond deepened into romance. Jasmine's family knew about Jason but had never met him in person. To them, he was simply the new boyfriend, part of the natural excitement of youth. In late October, the couple even traveled together to Chicago, posting cheerful photos as if they were writing a new radiant chapter in their story. But behind every seemingly perfect love story, there are cracks. Jason never introduced himself formally to her family. He kept a strange distance, as if he were hiding part of who he really was. Later, friends and acquaintances of Jasmine would recall that Jason often gave off an uneasy vibe. He was awkward in social situations, hard to read, and unsettling to those around him. Still, in the blindness of love, Jasmine either did not see or chose not to see those warning signs. Then came the night of November 22nd, 2022. Katrina received a message from Jasmine. She said she was going to South Carolina with her girlfriend Emma for Thanksgiving. But Katrina immediately noticed something was wrong. Emma had been a family friend for years, often spending time with them. Why would Jasmine introduce Emma in a text message as if she were a stranger? That was not how Jasmine spoke, not how she texted her mother. This seemingly small detail was the first red thread in a web of deceit. A text message that didn't sound like Jasmine, a fabricated explanation that didn't fit her life. In that moment, Katrina wanted to believe her daughter simply needed time away, to process grief after her great-grandmother's passing. She dismissed the unease. But in truth, that message was the final warning before the storm. From a warm, ordinary life with family with love, with a promising future, Jasmine had unknowingly stepped onto a path from which she would never return. On November 22nd, 2022, Jasmine was still full of life. That evening, she spoke with Jason Chen on the phone for more than 1 hour. It would be the last genuine conversation she would ever have. After that, the shadows began to close in. The next morning, Katrina received something odd. A text message supposedly from Jason to Jasmine, saying, "Hey, are we still good for dinner tonight?" The message appeared on Jasmine's phone, but was never opened. That small detail revealed something sinister. Jason was pretending Jasmine was still alive, weaving a false narrative to buy himself time. Thanksgiving arrived, the most important family gathering of the year. But Jasmine never showed up. For a young woman who cherished her family, who never missed a holiday, her absence was a deafening alarm. When call after call went unanswered, worry turned into dread. Katrina began searching through phone records. She discovered that on the night of November 22nd, Jasmine had been on the phone with Jason for more than 60 minutes. He was the last person to speak to her. A mother's instinct screamed Jason held the key. She called him directly. His answers were evasive, dismissive. When asked for his address, Jason gave her 500 Tremont Street. The family rushed there, only to find an abandoned construction site, no home. No Jason, no Jasmine. He had lied. A chill ran down Katrina's spine. Why give a false address? Why wasn't he helping search for her? In desperation, she remembered something crucial. At 2:15 a.m., hours after Jasmine had vanished, she had received a location pin from her daughter's phone. The family traced the pin to 110 Tremont Street. A neighbor confirmed Jason Chen lived in apartment 210. They pounded on the door, calling Jasmine's name. Silence. That was when Travis, Jasmine's biological father, made a fateful decision. He circled to the back, broke the lock, and entered with a pistol in hand. Room by room he searched, heart pounding, praying to find his daughter alive. But instead of Jasmine, he found her belongings, her credit cards, her ID, her suitcase scattered in Jason's apartment. Cleaning supplies recently purchased sat abandoned on the couch. When Travis opened the front door to let the rest of the family in, see the scene hit them like a nightmare. It was clear Jasmine had been there, but now she was gone. They called the police immediately. But the reason Travis had taken matters into his own hands was simple. He believed law enforcement was moving too slowly. In cases like this, every hour could mean the difference between life and death. From that moment on, Jason's carefully crafted deception began to crumble. The fake text messages, the false addresses, the unanswered questions, all pointed to a chilling truth. Behind Jason's cold mask was someone desperately trying to erase the traces of a crime too monstrous to hide forever. And for Jasmine's family standing in that apartment, it was the beginning of a nightmare that had no end. When investigators entered Jason Chen's apartment, 210, on the night of November 27th, 2022, it looked deceptively ordinary. A sofa, a dining table, neatly arranged furniture. To the untrained eye, it was nothing more than a young man's home. But seasoned detectives know evil often hides behind a thin coat of normalcy. They carried with them a tool designed to reveal the truth. BlueStar, a forensic reagent that makes hidden blood glow in the dark. The moment it touched the walls, the tiles, the carpet, the apartment came alive in a haunting blue-green luminescence. The living room, the bathroom, even the smallest cracks lit up like a cave filled with fireflies. It was not a home. It was a crime scene painted in blood. Spatter patterns sprayed across the bathroom walls told of a violent struggle. Shards of broken glass glittered on the floor, each piece a frozen shard of chaos. Cleaning supplies freshly bought sat scattered across the couch, as if Jason had tried to erase what he had done, but ran out of time. Then came the voice of a neighbor, filling in the silence with memory. At 2:11 a.m. on November 23rd, they awoke to a woman's scream, piercing desperate words they couldn't quite understand. Footsteps thundered across the floor above. Then a door slammed. After a moment, silence. The neighbor assumed it was just another late-night argument between lovers. But now, those screams would be remembered as Jasmine's last cries for help, swallowed by indifference. Cameras around the complex revealed even more chilling details. Hours later, Jason appeared with his right hand wrapped in black fabric, his movements stiff. At 1:41 p.m., he was seen at a Walgreens nearby, purchasing hydrogen peroxide and bandages, clear signs of wounds sustained in a violent fight. That evening at 6 o'clock, he emerged again, dragging a dark suitcase down the hallway. The sound of its wheels rattled softly, eerily, as if nothing were wrong. But detectives knew inside that suitcase could be the answer to where Jasmine had gone. She was a petite young woman, weighing less than 100 pounds, small enough for her body to be concealed within. Later that same night, surveillance footage captured him once again at Walgreens. This time he bought rubbing alcohol, more bottles of peroxide, and a 6-pack of paper towels. He was desperately scrubbing away at the truth, but science would not be fooled. For investigators, the picture was now clear. There had been a brutal assault inside that apartment. A scream had cut through the night. Blood had soaked the walls and carpet. And then a suitcase rolled quietly into the darkness, carrying with it a terrible secret. The hope that Jasmine might still be alive was fading fast. Apartment 210 was no longer just Jason Chen's residence. It was the silent witness to a crime so violent, so merciless, that even walls and floors could not hold back the story written in blood. After the apartment at Tremont Street revealed its bloody secrets, detectives knew they had no more time to waste. Phone records and GPS data were traced meticulously, leading them toward a remote stretch known as Suck Creek Road, a place of thick woods and a river running dark and cold. It was the kind of place chosen not by accident, but by someone determined to hide a terrible truth. It did not take long. Within 30 seconds of searching, officers spotted a dark suitcase lying about 10 to 15 feet from the water's edge. When they unzipped it, it felt heavy. Inside, wrapped in 3 black trash bags, was Jasmine's body. Her wrists were cuffed, her body folded into the fetal position. And then came the wounds, more than 60 stab wounds, savage and relentless. So many, in fact, that the knife had broken inside her lung. The autopsy performed by Dr. Cogswell was both horrifying and heartbreaking. Jasmine had been alive for every stab. Her neck injuries robbed her of speech. Blood filled her lungs, slowly drowning her from the inside. None of the wounds were instantly fatal. Instead, she endured prolonged agony, bleeding out in silence. That pin she sent her mother at 2:15 a.m. was it her final attempt to cry for help. Even as the life drained from her body, the thought alone is unbearable. On November 29th, 2022, police arrested Jason Chen at his parents' home in Nolensville, Tennessee. His hands and feet bore cuts, proof of the struggle.
He's gonna pat you down, he's gonna place in handcuffs. I'll place you in arrest, you just policy, you go to the back of the court, so you can put handcuffs, good.
Okay, so you said there was a search warrant?
Correct. Correct, yeah. There's a search warrant for your person, so we're, Nolensville Police Department, we're gonna be detaining you in compliance with the search warrant. We're assisting gentlemen.
Okay, and is there any like calls or anything?
They're gonna explain That's it, okay. Yeah.
We're gonna let them do that, but I don't wanna speak for them.
Yeah, we don't want
Also,
you to.
misinform you of anything, so they'll tell you all that when we get down there, so just take it from them. They're the lead on this.
We'll let them explain it because we don't want to pile on information. We'll let them one time it all down.
Okay.
All right, so if you will, just face away from me. All right, do you have anything?
But even more telling were the notes found in his room. They were not love letters nor apologies. They were scripts, lies he planned to feed the police. Last time I saw Jasmine was November 19th. Last phone call was November 22nd. If they contact her family, what do they do? Each scribble exposed the mind of a man, rehearsing deceit, not remorse. The trial began in January 2025. Jason pleaded not guilty, claiming it was voluntary manslaughter. His defense argued Jasmine had attacked him with a wine bottle after finding Tinder notifications. But the evidence demolished that story. Forensic records showed no Tinder activity on November 22nd. Toxicology revealed Jasmine had no alcohol or drugs in her system. Worse, Jason had inserted his SIM card into her phone, sending fake texts and posting manipulated photos on Facebook to make it seem as if she were still alive. Throughout the trial, Jason sat stone-faced. He did not flinch at the autopsy details, nor at the evidence of his deception. The only time he shed tears was when his mother testified, begging for mercy, not for Jasmine, but for her son's futures. Her words stirred anger. There was no mention of Jasmine's life, no acknowledgement of her family's unending grief. On January 21, 2025, the jury deliberated for only 40 minutes. Their verdict: Jason Chen was guilty of first-degree murder. His sentence: life in prison without parole. Justice had spoken, but it carried no celebration. For Jasmine's family, the verdict was a cold comfort. The law had locked Jason away forever, but it could not bring back the warmth of her embrace, the sound of her laughter, the simple joy she carried into every room she entered. When the verdict was read aloud in the courtroom, silence pressed heavy against the walls. Jason Chen, life in prison, without the possibility of parole. But in that moment, there was no applause, no cheers of victory. Jasmine's family did not celebrate. They understood what the law could and could not do. Justice could lock away a killer, but it could never return their daughter, never erase the echoes of her screams at 2 o'clock in the morning inside that apartment. Her mother, Katrina, left the courthouse with swollen eyes. She later said, "People tell you justice will bring peace. But justice can't bring me my daughter's hugs. It can't bring back the sound of her laughter at Thanksgiving. It can't bring back all the little moments we lost forever." Those words cut deeper than any verdict. For families of victims, punishment belongs to the guilty, but the grief belongs to those left behind. Jasmine was not just a victim. She was a young woman with dreams, with love for her family, with a future waiting to unmold. That is what makes this story so unbearable. She didn't die in an accident. She died at the hands of someone she trusted, a betrayal so brutal it forever shattered the lives around her. Perhaps the case is legally closed, but it leaves behind a haunting question. Is justice ever enough when grief lives on without end? If you believe Jasmine's story must be told to honor her life and to warn others about the dangers of toxic relationships, share this video. And if you want to continue exploring the darkest corners of Ki, where truth, justice, and human frailty collide, subscribe to this channel. Because sometimes only by staring directly into cruelty do we learn to cherish the fragile, irreplaceable beauty of life and love.